So hello and welcome to all of our peeps here at Gospel Music Buzz. You know we always bring the heat. You know we always bring someone new, someone fresh, someone innovative to the show. Today we have the honor and the privilege of chopping it up with my junior high school friend. I got to put that out there.
Okay.
He is also a social entrepreneur, a venture capitalist, and a financial advisor. Christopher Holder, put your whole gubby out there. Chris Holder, welcome to the show.
CEO Chris, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Man, thanks so much, man. Because as we were looking into, coming down towards the ending of the year, I know typically with our listener base, we do interviews with individuals, within the music, within the gospel industry. Could be managers, could be PR individuals and so forth. But we know how important it is when you're goal setting and planning strategic moves going into a new year. You want to change things that didn't work as right within this year. And, we kind of look through and we figured, hey, maybe we do a series, maybe we do something, but, we want to bring someone that is actually have been doing this, has made, a lifestyle out of it, not necessarily read a book and maybe, just did a few blog posts, but is actually doing this. And we wanted to bring you on. So thanks a lot, Chris.
No, I'm glad to be here.
I was going to say congratulations. Sherwin talked about books. Not just read a book, but you've written a book. So congratulations on the Amazon bestseller, Tips to Success.
Yes, that was a big turning point. So I'm just happy to share. The one thing that I'll say is that every year, especially this year, people really have no clue what to necessarily do because they're not sure of where things are headed. And I'm just glad to be able to be one of those people that have kind of been through situations like this before, that I can give people direction like, hey, this happened before. This is not new. Here's what you need to do, and kind of just bring some normalcy to what's an abnormal time.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned been through a situation. I see you're in a car right now. You mentioned being through a situation. I know you have a bit of a backstory involving a car when you kind of had your aha moment. So how about you, take our listeners through that. Start and give us a backdrop on that.
Yeah, so it's funny, right? So the car I'm in now is not the car we're talking about. Back then, I had an Acura Legend that I had to turn the car on from the outside. So that was a whole different situation. So I made a few bad decisions back then, and it put me in a position where I was actually living out of my car. Now, I have great parents. So a lot of times people say, well, Chris, how could you be living out your car when you have parents, right? And we know y'all have a house, and we know y'all this, and we know. Well, the thing about it, right? And it's not for everybody. So if you don't come from a Caribbean household where like both your parents are like very, very strict with certain things, you may not understand that my dad was not playing. He was very, very strict, and there were rules to the house. And one of the rules was there can only be one man in the house, one grown man. Okay, there can't be two grown men making grown men decisions in the same house. And I felt at the time that I could challenge that a little bit, right? And me being young and so on and so forth, I made a couple bad decisions, and my father was not happy about it. And my dad said, listen, you got two options. You can, do what it is I'm telling you to do, or you can leave. Now, here's the crazy part is that I said, no, I'll leave because I, at the time, was living away. I had a little apartment with my friend. So I'm like, man, I'm not even living here right now. So guess what? I'm going to do it my way. And that was the exact same day that I went to my apartment and I saw all our stuff out. My roommate, who we've been warned before, used to smoke a lot, and our landlord just was not with it. And I guess she got fed up the same day I got into that argument with my dad. And obviously I couldn't go back home, right? So I'm thinking, well, this will blow over, right? Of course I'm going to be in a house. I'm going to be somewhere, right? That you just automatically just assume that someone will take you in. Like you just kind of just think that. And I learned the hard way that nobody was trying to take me in. It's like, you can come and visit, but then you got to go, right? You got to go. And it was very rough for me to just transition into living out of that car and then trying to navigate what life would look like, right? Because now I got so angry that it became, I'm gonna prove that I can make this work now. You guys, so that it went from that's fine, I'll figure it out, da, 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 and then it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. It just kept getting worse because my
Mm-hmm.
decision making was my decision making. Like Chris Holder was making the decisions. I was upset at everyone. I remember my conversations with the Lord was pretty reckless at that time. Right. I was telling him, I was like, I don't know what, like, it was like you would think I was crazy because I was talking like I was looking at someone and people would be around and I did not care. You know, it didn't matter. I'm like, well, you better figure out how we gonna eat today. Like that was my
How
conversation.
long were you in that state, living out of the car?
So it was a little over a year, actually. It was a little
Wow.
over a year. Yeah, a little over a year. Because what happens here is that we're I think human beings, unlike many other animals or whatever you want to look at it, we just adapt, right? So what happens is you go from I can't believe I'm here to how I'm gonna get through this day, through how I'm gonna get through the week, through how I'm gonna get through the month, to this ain't that bad.
Mm.
To
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why did I ever need an apartment? I'm saving money. You start to rationalize the situation just for you to mentally get through it,
Right.
right? Because you've got to psych yourself out.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I did. I said, I got to find ways. So I was like, okay. So it started like what became important? Water, right? Some kind of food, right? And how was I gonna stay fresh? Like literally, those are the three things I cared about. I was like, as long as when you see me, I was fresh, and not like fresh in clothes, like I smelt fresh. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's what was important to me at that time. I was living off of at the time. My car did not have insurance on it. Obviously, I lapsed because I didn't have any money coming in. So I'm driving around, just you know, if I got pulled over, it was on. So
Sounds
I
like
was
that.
avoiding police. It was a lot of anxiety. So there's a lot of other things that being in the car did, and being homeless, you know, put me in a different state.
We got to talk offline because I want to know what year this was. I'm trying to do a timeline search.
College, when I was in Staten Island, when I was in college, Staten Island.
Okay.
So during that time, that was when it all happened. So I was still in school because what I don't want to tell a story, but I'm gonna tell you what happened, right?
We're talk offline, but I'm just,
Yeah. So it was while I was in college. I made a bad decision with my tuition. My parents found out, and I didn't want to take the responsibility for it, and that's where
So,
things
so
got a little
basically,
shaky.
you were a venture capitalist even then, but you just didn't
Early. I
realize
started out
it.
early.
You
I said,
started out early.
I was like, let me
you
use this for
continue to be
something
a risk
else.
taker.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes. So
So,
I took the ultimate risk.
right.
Okay,
Tell us
and
how
I
you
put
earn $2,000 a week. Like,
huh?
what's the how do you do that? Earning $2,000 a week. Tell us how you work that out.
Okay. So basically that actually started back then. So I wasn't able to get a job because at the time, like I actually needed a physical location. And it was funny because nobody wanted to allow me to put their address for the location. They didn't want to be tied in because they thought I was doing something else. So they're like, I don't want to get tied in to any of your mess, right? So you got to figure it out. So what I started doing is I started finding jobs that I didn't have to be certified or have a degree for. Like I could just use my skills, right? So that led me to, you know, real estate, credit, the mortgages, and a different ambassador programs. I learned that through ambassador programs, you can make a lot of money with the right program. So what I started doing was I started finding people like, let's just say, Ashna, you had a business and your business needed customers. I was willing to go and help bring you customers if you split what they purchased with me, right? So if I was able to get an average, so this is the key to the 2K a week though. The average is $250 per referral. So if I could at least minimally get $250 per referral, then I really just have to try to close 8 customers a week, right? That was the mentality I started to take. Like, okay, if I get 8 customers this week, there it is. So that became me saying I need to average 2 people a day. So I was like, if I get 2 people a day, that gives me the opportunity to have off days, right? Like 1 or 2 off days, but I can still recover on one day if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
maintain this. So that was the idea because I recognized that there's about 3% of the world, right? That generates, you know, really over 100K. It's a very small number of people that really make or take home $100,000 or more a year. And I said, okay, why? And I recognize that the systems that we're in don't promote high incomes. It's not about the income, is that you're going to help support a system, and
Right.
that system is already ran by somebody else. So you're just a part of the system. Now, some people might make a lot more, but they lose time in one area, right? So it's a give and take.
Mm-hmm.
So when I looked at the 2K a week, I said, hey, if people could get to 2K a week, because when I started doing $2,000 a week, everything changed for me mentally. Like $100,000, I started looking at it like $10,000, right? Because you reached the threshold, right? All of a sudden, 100K, you go, well, how can I make 250? Then you get to 250. Then you go, well, let's see if we can make a push for 5. And then all of a sudden, $1 million doesn't look like the million, because now you start seeing how it's going to disappear.
Right.
Then you start saying, I need 2 million. So you see what happens there is these limiting beliefs on money became big because the conversation around money stayed small.
Right.
So
Is this the
Everyone's
kind of
conversation.
information? Is this the kind of information you give on Financial Tip Sunday?
Yes. So that's part of my financial tips Sundays, is different tips like that. One of the things that the 2K a week, I have a challenge that I do. So every 90 days, I'll just spark it up. All right, guys, 2K a week. Let's just do it. And I'll just pour into complete strangers. Like, hey, just hop on. Let's go. Let's get you to 2K a week, whatever it is. And I have a layout that individuals can get right from my website. It's free. I don't charge for it. It's there. Like, you could literally do everything that I said there, and you can make $2,000 a week without ever paying me. For me, it's about the fact that when I was going through, I didn't have good information. I was lucky and blessed to connect with my mentor later on during that time. But had that person not connected with me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So the 2K a week is my way of giving back in a way for someone who was like me. If you were homeless, all you were able to do is get on the internet, and now the internet is on the street corners now. So it's a whole different ball game now. You could sit there and you could really learn, because if you don't have a product that is that high, you don't need to create it. Just go find somebody else that did it, and then ask them if you could partner with them and promote their service. So then when I started promoting real estate, then all of a sudden they got big. They're like, hey, listen, if you can go get such and such person to do such and such, we'll pay you, 60% of that deal. I'm like, what, 60% of that number you'll give to me? They're like, yeah, we'll give that to you. So I then started making phone calls for mortgage companies to help them get refinances and to help them think. This is before I became like a mortgage broker, before I did any of that stuff. This is just me making phone calls to make money, right? And they would pay me like a super small, nothing crazy. They were taking advantage of me in that way. But remember, at that point, I was, I was like, I learned it because I really wasn't making a lot at the time. This is like when the 2K week started to catch on, because now that was what I called the long-term money, right? Because I didn't know when the deal was going to close. So I needed something that would cover me weekly. So if someone's like, okay, well, Chris, what should I focus on? Yes, focus on the big things, right? Cool, no problem. You got, closing for real estate, a referral for this. Those take time to produce those leads. They take time to produce and lock in those relationships, right? But once they're locked in, you get a flow. But before that, you're just looking for, if someone has a business that customers are looking for, but they can't find them. If you can get them to them, you're more valuable there.
So become the middleman.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say that. So for someone that's watching this, right? Because again, a lot of times you're seeing, ads, you're seeing different things. Hey, work from home. This is before we actually had to work from home, right? You're seeing work from home, make 2K a week, do this, do that, and half the time when you're trying to call those ads, it's just like it's madness that they're telling you. So you're like, listen, you're telling me in order to get into this program, to make 2K a week, I have to pay you 5K a month. So you're basically then giving me back my 2K from the 5K that I pay you. Like, how is all that happening? So for someone that is, starting up, building, saving, and they're at that point where they say, hey, I think now I have $1,000 in my account. I watched you did a talk where you're talking about 9 money moves someone can make with 1K in their accounts. If they hit that first milestone, they got that first 1K. What advice would you give to them?
So I have something called my 6-figure secrets checklist, right? That's something that everybody gets. And it's my goal to help someone go from emergency fund, which is $1,000. And really, I don't like the $1,000. You know, I can speak on 1,000. I tell everybody $1,500 is the number
Okay.
you want to go with,
Okay.
right?
So we start with
But
15.
I did do the article of, obviously, because it's still money, and you know, $1,000 is what they teach because they're afraid to tell people 15. Because you have to think inflation. I went to the corner store this morning, regular corner store, to buy a gallon of water. You guys know what they charge for a gallon of water in a corner store?
Mm-mm.
No idea.
Two
$5,
dollars and
three.
fifty cents.
Mm.
$2.50. No, well, that's not bad. Whatever. Wrong. It's a dollar. So it
Mm.
went from $1 to $2.50. That is more than 100% increase. You get what I'm saying? But your income didn't change.
Right.
You get it? So the
Got
same
it.
person on the same building, their food, what they have to eat doubled, what they have to drink doubled. There was something else I saw. It was like these mini swirls I remember eating. It used to be 25 cents. They're a
Lemon
dollar now.
swirls.
Yeah, they're a dollar in some stores now. Now, I always look at those little things and say that's where most people money is going, right? I mean, do they got kids? They're normally going into a store and they're spending it just grabbing something to go, typically, right? That money is doubled in some cases. So I say inflation puts your $1,500 at that same 1,000. Okay, so that was my thing. So I said, okay, listen, if you're gonna have $1,500, I tell people the very next thing you do is to start putting aside 1 month of savings. Now
Okay.
your lifestyle expense. People say, "Oh, I gotta invest." I'm like, stop. Don't fall for the trick. Okay, there will always be an opportunity to invest.
Yeah.
You're not missing nothing. I tell people all the time. Yes, you missed Tesla, but remember there was Facebook back in the day. Remember, there was MySpace back in the day. Right? Like I can run through companies that we're not talking about today that
Hmm.
everyone had a chance when they went public to take advantage of them in the stock market. So when everyone's like, "Oh, I got to take advantage of Amazon and Tesla," yeah, that's today. 6 months from now, you're going to be talking about another one. 6 months from
Yeah.
now, it's just what happened. So how about we get you ready to actually make a move that's going to impact you if you're gonna go that route? So
Hmm.
I always like to say is to go with 1 month of lifestyle expenses after your
Okay.
emergency fund of 15. So you got $1,500, boom. You put that aside. That's your emergency fund. You want to put that in a high yield savings account. Okay. Now, high yield savings account is just an account that gives a higher interest rate than the bank. So
Okay.
typically it's not your bank. So typically it's not from your bank. It's from an online bank. I mean, American Express offers high yield savings accounts. And it's just them saying, hey, leave your money here. We'll give you 3% on it or whatever. Right. So
Got it.
that's where you're going to leave it because you still have access to it if you
Hmm.
need the emergency, right? Next thing now is we want to get lifestyle expenses in line. So the lifestyle now, I tell people all the time, like, yeah, we can put our bills aside, but if you're getting your hair done, if you don't put that on as a expense, that's going to come back to get you because it's going to start to eat away at them dollars, right? If your kids do karate, if you go to the gym, if there's certain things that is part of your lifestyle, if you go shopping, right, every 90 days for something, right? You want to add that to an average and then you come up with this is what I need that if something were to happen, my lifestyle stays the same. So
Got
I
it.
need that number. So after you get your bills, you tack on your lifestyle number on top of it. So let's say your bills were $1,500 a month after everything.
Hmm.
And then your lifestyle bills were another $500. So that means that your number is $2,000 a month. So that will be considered 1 month of your expenses, lifestyle
And
expenses.
and that's what you
You
save.
right, that's right. That's the very next thing you do after the 1,000. Then you go to 3 months. So
Okay.
for me, you shouldn't start anything until $1,500 is put aside in the high yield and 3 months of your lifestyle expenses at a minimum are put aside, right? Especially if you're someone of color. Now, I don't like to get into race and color, but the numbers are the numbers, okay?
Yeah.
We don't have savings because we put everything on credit cards, okay? We have a lot of debt. We don't understand how to budget. There are things we just were never taught. So these things are not important to us until they're important. Then all of a sudden it has to be important. So I tell individuals to do that, and then they start working on their debt. So I don't tell people to pay their debt first. So if you got credit cards right now, you got a bunch of
Interesting.
credit card debt right now.
Okay.
You got 10 cards, Chris. I'm drowning. What am I gonna do? Well, here's what we're gonna do. You didn't get into that debt overnight. That's one thing I try to tell you. It didn't happen one night you woke up with all these cards. It happened over time. So now we're going to do the same thing you did to get rid of it. So we're going to pay it over time, right? We're going to do one card at a time, one card at a time. But on your way, we're going to be saving money, because if you get into trouble, we don't want you to end up using back the same card you just paid off because you didn't have no money put aside. That's where we mess up. We pay these cards down. We don't put money to save because it just feels good. I don't have the debt anymore. I don't have any money, right? I don't have any savings. I can't do anything, but I got no more debt. Boom, life happens. Life always happens. See, this is the thing I try to
Yeah.
tell people. Life is that street corner robber that's around the corner waiting to hit you over your head every time you think it's safe.
So
Right?
then,
People just don't recognize that's there. So saying that to say, that's the process. And so I'm saying, well, Chris, I'm ready to invest. If someone comes to me and I always ask people, do you have 3 to 6 months put aside? Are you least at this point? No, Chris. They don't talk to me about putting. I'm not going to tell you to put any money on the market. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do that.
mm,
So and I can give you all the stuff to buy. I tell people what to buy, where to put it, how to set it up. But I'm not talking to somebody that doesn't understand the system of I need to put aside and protect myself. Because what's the point of putting money on the market that you eventually are going to have to take off the market to pay the bills?
no, that I think that's definitely factual there, and I think there's a lot of, at least from what I've seen, right? There's the fire movement. There's I know Dave Ramsey's big on that part. Is big on pay down your debts and do this,
Yep.
and there's different ways of doing it. But I think also too, not everything is for everyone, right? Because
Correct.
that's as I
Correct.
started to even look more into how a lot of the stuff that you're suggesting and some of your financial tips Sunday and so forth. I think
Yeah.
you're a bulk of your audience base, kind of from growing up, from being around, from speaking to friends, that
Yep.
that thing is going to happen, right? Like you
Yep.
said, that one thing is going to happen, and you were thinking, I'm investing, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But then when that one thing happened, now you're trying to borrow some money, you're going to use your
Yeah.
card, you're going to use all that. So I think I definitely like that approach of starting with that, save, add towards that, and then kind of build on top of it. That's pretty solid. So thank you. Chanel, you were going to say
And
something?
I was going to add that it makes it attainable. So it's not like, okay, I have to dump this whole lump of money into an investment for my future. No, I still have to live day to day. So I love the idea about holding on to your lifestyle money for 3 to 6 months worth of lifestyle money so that you can still live day to day. And then when you're secure in that 3 to 6 months of savings, now you take from another pot and invest. Why?
Yeah. And the thing is, just so when we say invest, I try to make sure we understand what's the purpose here. What are we really trying to do? Am I saving for retirement? What does
Hmm.
retirement really mean to you? What does that life look like? Because that determines what you're investing in, right? If you don't have that plan, then you're just following the crowd. That means you're about to lose money. You'll make some money right now, but you're going to lose it because no one's taught you how to maintain. It's a whole process. So I always try to tell people, like, listen, I remember having money on the market. I remember following that system. And I remember emergencies happening and me having to liquidate all my profits. Because I didn't know. And so I'm like, well, where else am I gonna get money from? And most people are not gonna call somebody. Most people are going to pull from that Roth IRA. They're gonna take a loan out on their 401k. They're gonna do bad things because no one taught them, like, you shouldn't be stressed out over this anyway. Like, you don't have enough to put in here because you don't have anything in your savings account.
Right.
Right. So I tell people to have their account set up. I focus in on your emergency fund. That account has
Hmm.
your emergency fund plus your lifestyle expenses, right? The goal is to
Yeah.
get it to one. That's why I tell everybody your goal is to have 1 year of lifestyle expenses plus your emergency fund in one account, just chilling. That's how you know you're good. At that point, you are now ready to invest future funds because you're protecting, and a percentage of it continues doing what it's doing while investing, right? Anyway, next thing I say, get a savings account, put a savings with a purpose. So the purpose should always be towards something. So if you have debt you're paying down, then you're putting a little bit of money extra onto that account. Okay. Then the next thing, I focus in on is making sure that that same person, as they're putting all their stuff together, they got their lifestyle expense, they got that account, they have that account. Now we want to look at what's the most important thing for them after that. Bills, right? So you got an account that
Yeah.
just should be bills, just bills, right?
Mm.
And
Okay.
then the next account, right, is the one that a lot of people don't have, and that's the fun account. Okay. A small percentage
Yeah.
of your money should go there for you to do the ignorance you want to do. That's what it is. It's
I
like,
like
who
that account.
cares what you do, right? Someone
That's the lit
like, people
account.
see me. I remember I went
That's a
to
good
I
account.
went yeah, I went to a Ferragamo store. A friend of mine was with me. I went to a Ferragamo store and I walked in there and I bought like a bracelet, a watch, and I might have spent like $3,800 in there. And he's looking like, Chris, I wouldn't waste that money. I wouldn't do this. I'm like, bruh, it's my fun account. I got to use this money. This is what I decided to use it on. He's like, what do you mean fun account? I was like, oh no, this money is money that is just a percentage of all every time money comes in. The same way I put aside 10% towards my tithes and offering, I put aside 10% for me.
Want to talk
So
about that, tights? Go ahead.
so everyone has their their thing. I'm like, me, whatever I'm giving out, a portion that's coming back too. And I that was deep rooted in me. While I was homeless, getting kicked out of a church, and it
Mm.
changed my viewpoint
Hmm.
on the whole thing, because I'm like, I've been giving here. Why would they kick me out? Because my viewpoints change on what they want to do. And mind you, I'm a youth. That's how I look at it. I'm like, I'm in my 20s. I'm not,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? And it made me change because then I started looking at when I wasn't in church. Like I said, I had my relationship change, and the Lord really put it on my spirit to just give to people. So the
Yeah.
same money that I was giving, I would listen to people, and then let's say I have like $300. I'm just gonna say, hey man, the Lord told me to give that to you, bro. And he's like, what? What do you mean? And you see, so I started when I didn't have a church home. I
Hmm.
started giving my tithes to people, but the Lord would put those people on my heart. So the
Yeah.
whole year, I'm giving. I ain't got it. I'm in the car. I'm still giving, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when everything happened for me super fast for me to get out of the situation, I wasn't surprised because I was pouring back into his kingdom in a different way. That's how that was what was put into my spirit, right? The amount of
Hmm.
lives I impacted, the amount of homeless people, one particular woman and this is, I know it's going off in a tangent, but giving opens up everything.
That's right.
So
Yes. We believe in
that's
that
the
100% for sure.
that's the message of the whole thing. I remember my first check I got, my biggest referral check I got was just under $3,000. And there was a woman and her daughter that I met when I was in and out of the shelters, like just, figuring out which is a crazy system by itself. And I found her a job cleaning. There's a woman who says, hey, I'm looking for someone to clean. I want her to be she could live in my basement, blah, 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 blah. And she says she can live here for $250 a month because she'll be cleaning pretty much most of the time. And I called her. I went over there to the shelter because she had a bad situation. Her daughter should not have been there. And I said, hey, I found you an opportunity for you and your daughter. And I said, and I'm going to pay for your guys' first year because really $2,500. I gave $2,500 of the $3,000 that I made to
Mm.
make sure that her and her daughter were able to go there and pay the rent. And then, fast forward now, they're in Colombia. They have a little shop over there. She's doing well. And I always remember that when I did that, the very next week, that same closing, that client gave me their first deal, which was
Wow.
because they couldn't close it. They say, hey, Chris, we're going to give you this deal. You can have all the money if you close it. And 30 days from that, I had my first $10,000 check.
Wow.
Right. So I'm just putting that out there that
Hmm.
there's some things you can do to open up. If you feel like money is not coming to you, let it go.
That's
Like
right.
just
Right.
stop doing this, right? The little bit you holding on to the little bit.
Listen, you
So
preaching the
just
word
like you,
today, Chris.
Come
right? So
on.
just like
Come
you can't
on.
get it
Come
in,
on.
right?
Come
You can't get
on.
it in. God can't put nothing in there either.
Woo!
You get what I'm
Come on.
saying?
Come on. Come on,
Still
Minister
more
So
blessed
Chris.
to give than to receive. So
Come
right.
on.
So
That's biblical. That's biblical right there,
so
man. That's biblical. So we were going through. So again, we know, throughout everyone's financial journey, right?
yeah.
There's certain books, there's certain things that always strike you as, hey, this was amazing. So
Yeah.
tell us some of those books that are influenced you during your journey. And also, I know you're an author as well, as
Yeah,
as Chanel mentioned, Tips to Success,
yeah,
Secrets to Quarterly Success. So touch a
yeah,
little bit about both of those, but also what were some of the books that have influenced you along your journey? That someone that is now starting, they
yeah.
can be like, hey, let me just go pick one of these books up.
Yeah, and it'll be easy. Watch. So my books were written through that storm, if you will, right?
Okay.
So tips of success, my mind had to be in a certain place, and I recognized that I needed to always have a certain check-in, right? So when I wrote the book for someone to read it every couple months and then check back into. So if
Mm,
you're trying to be successful, one of the things about being successful is always checking back everything, right? So a lot of times people stay in the same situation, not recognizing things have changed. And that can
mm,
cost you money. It can cost you business because you're not checking anymore. Everything is cool. It's not cool. So every 90 days or every 4 months, I tell people just come back, read the book. Book is a quick read. Go through the workbook portion. Make sure your dreams are in the right place. Make sure the resources. So it's like you make sure certain things are in place. The quarterly success one is for someone who trying to make things happen now. You 90 days from now, you want to make certain things change. The book is set up. It's set up in 90 days increments. So you use that book for 90 days and then you get another one. It helps with
mm.
contacts, helps with budgeting. It helps you just organize your ideas, lay things out for you. And then every 90 days, you come back and check it and make sure you get on top of it. The books that were big to me, so two things. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's always a
Okay.
great,
Yeah,
great, great,
I remember that
great
one.
starter book. But what most people don't do is they don't read the second book, which is Cash Flow Quadrant. Okay.
Mm.
Everyone reads Rich Dad or Poor Dad. Cash Flow Quadrant is the book you should have read. You get it? So that's not the fun book. That's not the, oh, my dad. No, that's the, here's what an investor is. Here's what being self employed is. Here's what working for someone else is. You see what I'm saying? These are the quadrants. Now let's identify where you are and where you want to get to. And let's start putting down some. And it was amazing that every time I mentioned it, most people said, I don't even know he had another book. At the
Yeah, I
end,
did.
at the
Yeah.
end of the one book, he tells you about the other book. So it's like people just read it's like, oh, the book's done. They don't recognize like in one line, he's like, hey, there is another book, cash flow. So it's cash flow
Cash
quadrants.
flow quadrants.
Quadrants. Yeah, Robert
Slow
Kiyosaki.
quadrant.
That's the set. That is
Okay.
the follow up to that book. So that's a great book. It'll definitely help you open things up. It'll help you organize your thoughts in a different way because it is it's very detailed. It's not just a fun loving book. This is the book that's where the meat of all of it is, right? Then what I started doing is I started going into nice neighborhoods and I started asking the people because I used to see on a lot of nice neighborhoods they had a lot of magazines. Like magazines would come and they would just leave them out there. They had like baskets, and in the baskets would be all the books, right? So like in really 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 high end neighborhoods, like the magazines were put in that basket, and I didn't really
Okay.
understand what I asked. Even to today, I probably should ask somebody. I still never understood what the purpose of it was. Is it because they were going to sit on the porch and read it, or I have no clue. But while I was driving those neighborhoods for inspiration, because I was like, I'm gonna be here one day, I'm gonna get my situation. So I would, instead of being in bad neighborhoods and letting that energy seep down, I would go to neighborhoods I would see myself in later on
Okay.
and be inspired by the designs of the home, the cleanness of the neighborhood, the things that were happening in those communities. I'm like, oh, this is where I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna be stuck in such and such and such situation. But I would go there and I would knock on the door. I'm going to tell you two things I did. I knocked on the door and I would ask them, hey, are there any magazines that you have around money that you're no longer using? I'm looking to collect those. And
Really?
each
Okay.
house, each
Wow.
house, they would say, here. They're like, we're not reading this. I don't read this. Awesome. Is it okay if I come back once a month to collect these from you? Please. You can take the back. Don't even knock on the door. Just come by and just, we'll know it's you. Awesome. So my mom always told me that nobody needs to know your situation on your face and from your body. Whatever your situation is, that's your situation. But
Mm-hmm.
present yourself as how you want people to see you, no matter what's going on back home. So I would always
Awesome.
make sure I was presentable. Obviously, I knew how to carry myself, and I wasn't threatening. I knew to make very respectful. And I started reading Money Magazine. I started
Mm.
reading Forbes. I started reading Entrepreneur Magazine. And those are the three magazines that carried me because I was able to pour into here all the stuff. Because now I recognize that I have to self-educate. Like it was my moment that I'm like, well, clearly college is not going to be the route for me,
Mhm.
right? There was a lot going on. Like even if I did it, I didn't see myself where I am today through school, right? Because there was no there was no career given to me in college that I could say I'm going to make $1 million here,
Yeah.
right? I didn't see it, right? Without major sacrifice, right? And I knew myself. I was like, I'm not giving school another 8 years. I'm not getting a master's. I'm not getting a doctorate. I'm not. And I just looked at all. I'm like, I'm not doing none of that. I'm barely struggling to finish up to get the regular one. And then I know I got to get another one. But then a stat changed my life. This changed Chris Holder's life. May change a lot of people. So you guys, this is breaking news. This is the first interview I'm sharing
Well, now.
this piece of information. Okay. So here's what happened. So I was reading I think it was Entrepreneur magazine. This is years ago. And in the magazine, they gave a broke down of what percentage chance you had to become a millionaire based on your race and your education level. And as I'm reading it, it started with Africa. And I'm not going through the rest of the races, but just I'm looking at myself. If I graduated, if I didn't have a college degree, my chances of being a millionaire was 1%. Right? If I had a college degree, do you guys want to know what my percentage was as African American?
Please tell.
1%.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Really?
1%.
Wow.
It wasn't until I got a master's, if I got a master's degree, did it move up to 3.
Okay.
And if I got a doctorate, Dr. Holder, 6% chance.
Wow.
Right.
And I sat there and I said, so if I finish school, I have a 1% chance to do it. If I stay in this car, the system has set up for me to still have the same 1%. And that's when I made the decision, right? Because I looked at the years. I'm like, even if I graduated, for me to get to 3, I'd have to do my master's, which would be another 2. I don't know, Chanel, how many years is that? 2 years, 3 years?
Another 2 after your 4-year degree.
Yeah. So I still have to finish and then go. And I'm looking at the time. I'm like, I'll be a millionaire way before I get my master's done, and then I'd have to start whatever it is. So that's when things changed. Like that was a big, big defining moment, is when I recognized my chances of being a millionaire were the same as an African American who went and finished college.
Wow.
Changed my whole viewpoint on what I did. And I went back to my parents and I started building a business. Started building my first business. This was the direct sales business. You know, the when I was doing the phone services and everything.
Okay. The Organo Gold or
No, ACN.
okay.
Is when I joined ACN. There's a network marketing company, and they were doing phone services. Now at this point, you got to remember, I've been working so hard on networking, contacting out of the car that I didn't have a product that everybody had. And I got started with this company, and what they were selling was cheaper phone service. That's it. If you had a phone, you didn't have to leave your carrier. Just switch over here, save $10. You don't got to do nothing. Just sign a piece of paper. And when they told me that I could build a whole team around this, I hit every project building you could think of. And my first check was $197. Okay, my first check. 3 weeks from that, I got $950 check. Okay. Month number 2, I made $6,000. And then after 87 days, I started clearing over $10,000 a month from there.
Wow.
Wow.
Mind you, still was in college, but this was me now making the decision. Like once it was like, and then I had a conversation with my parents. I said, I need a year. I need 1 year of focus. I can't be in school. 1 year. My parents like, this is your last year. You got to get it done. And I'm looking at the workload for my last year of school. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm finishing this in the next year. I need at least a year and a half because I already knew 2 classes I was not going to take at the same time as anything else. I'm like, nah, they need their own semester, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to take my time off and I'm going to get to work. And I told my parents, I'll trade you. I'll cover the mortgage for the entire year.
Whoa.
I'll cover our family mortgage. I'm not even living there. Remember this, I'm not even
Okay.
living there. I said, I got a good feeling about this. And obviously, I mean, I have proof, right? I have proof. At this point, my mom was now helping me because she saw the money. She couldn't believe it, right? And how she saw the money is one day she came and she saw just a bunch of papers. Like she came to the car and she's like, "You can't live like this, Chris." You know, mom. And papers everywhere, envelopes everywhere. So you got to throw these envelopes away. And I'm like, "Mom, whatever. It is what it is." It was all checks, all checks,
Really?
all undeposited checks. That's how much I didn't even know about money. I didn't realize I should have deposited them because I wanted to have all these checks to show people that it was real.
So you continue to live in the car
Oh,
even
yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
money.
Yep, because then I figured out a system. I knew where I was going to eat from. At the time, I had a little girlfriend. I go by her house, eat a little meal, take a shower. When I was there, I'll go back to the car. So I didn't care because I figured out how to sleep. I figured out where I was going to take my shower. I figured out where I was going to eat. And I was like, I'm not spending this money. I'm going to stack. Then I got on, I spoke once, my parents and we agreed that I was going to take the year off. My dad then said, "Hey, if you want to come back to the house, you can have your room back." And me and my dad, at that point we fixed, and I came back home. But really, I wasn't home. I was out all the time. But I was like, okay, I have home now. Like that. It was more so about mending that relationship
Mm-hmm.
than it was about me living in the house because I wasn't staying in the house anyway, right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have like I'm not. And then once I started paying the mortgage, I was like, bruh, like I can do whatever I want, right? I'm not this whole, the first conversation
And
while I
with
left.
other men in the house.
Yeah, I'm like, you got another man in the house. I'm paying all these bills, but I'm just letting that one go. You still my daddy, so I'm gonna respect you as my dad. But yes, that was the biggest. And then that business. So that was the concept. So when you hear the story, oh, I went from being homeless to making over $300,000 a year. That was when that happened, because I was in the
Got
car
got it.
making this money, right? And it wasn't until I made about 300,000
Wow.
before I moved back in the house
Mm.
with my parents. So I'd already made that money,
Wow.
right? And it wasn't because my mom was my accountant too. So when she's looking at it, she's like, "This is how are you?" And I was like, "Man, I told y'all." And then at that point, I was now looking at it like, okay, I don't believe this was gonna last. So now I got to start investing. I got to start learning. So the first thing I learned to do was buy a company. That was my first. I took about 90% of the money and I invested it into buying my own direct sales company, which is called Reju. So there's this whole and then that opened up the next thing. That opened up real estate. Then I started buying a tech company. And if you start looking at the trend, it all started from that moment during a recession. Keep that in mind. This all happened. The things were not going well. Like the world had, the markets crashed, Lehman Brothers closed, everybody
Mm-hmm.
turmoil. Nah, everybody still got their phones.
Right, right. And this is
So
why we have to bring you back to talk about how to build a business in a pandemic
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
Yeah, indeed.
that's where we are.
yeah,
Indeed for sure. Because I'm looking at it and I was like, man, there's a lot of parts here to go with this. And I know we've been speaking for almost an hour now, and I'm like, I didn't even realize I'm raising up. I'm looking at the time. I'm like, man, but I still had so much more written down. So we need to figure this
I have
out,
part
man. We
so
two.
gotta we have to get something else. We gotta figure this out back, man, because I definitely want you to dive in, as Chanel mentioned, regarding building a business in a
yeah,
pandemic, laying out some other steps. I know, even if when you come back the next time, if you're able, if you're sharing part of your screen, I know you do a lot of teaching, if you're
yeah,
able to go through certain things, because I
yep,
really want to put like a solid action plan together where someone can, hey, they're going, whether they go to your site, you kind of lay
yep,
out, you'll send us over the necessary links. We'll,
yep,
link to your books, link to everything. Because I really feel it on my heart that going in to 2021, there was a lot that happened in 2020. A lot of people wanted to start businesses. They
yeah,
punted a lot of things. They figured, hey, maybe I'll wait, maybe I'll put this on the back burner. But clearly, there's individuals that are succeeding in a pandemic. There's steps you can take to maximize opportunities in a pandemic or in any situation, as a matter of fact, but it's just kind of mapping out that blueprint. Because as you
yes,
mentioned, understanding the savings component, understanding the budget. And I'll be the first one to say, oh my goodness, I really don't like budgeting. Like when you say the word budgeting, I'm thinking like, oh man, how am I going to really capture all of this? But I know there's actual tools to go
Yes.
into your bank account, analyze your spending. It's not like you're looking at every aspect of your statements, but there's ways I'm sure you've learned how to
Yep.
properly do these and how to properly, align all these. So definitely
hmm
we
I
definitely
wanna.
want to go ahead.
I just wanna just to what you just said. When we get excited about budgeting, the way we get excited about our careers is when everything will change. We don't recognize how important knowing all your numbers are, because that's where we lose
Mm,
money, right? Like I just said, and no matter how much money I make, it bothers me to spend more than I should. Like I said, it bothered me today. I'm supposed there's no water in the house, right? My wife said, "Hey, make sure you get some water." I said, "I just grab some water real quick." I went down there. I was gonna pick up 3 bottles of water, 3 gallons, right? They told me it was 250. I'm like, bro, I'm only buying 1 bottle. My wife said, "Why only bought one?" I said, "I cannot see myself spending $7.50 for
wow.
3 gallons because I'm thinking about my own numbers. That $5 can go to something else,
Right.
right? But it's
Wow, that's
really for
powerful.
me the same $7.50 is 7 gallons of water somewhere else. So I just need to take the time to go get the 7 gallons and save myself versus the two. And I think about just the thought process of people. It's all right, man. Let me spend that $5. It's only $5. Really?
Mm,
Right.
Man, it's all right. I got that $2 charge that is not supposed to be there, or that $10 charge, or that fee that the bank just did. I'm gonna get back to it. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't play that. I call the bank up like, hey, why am I charging $3? What's that? Oh, we just started charging you for sending you paper in the mail. What? You charging me $3? I have 5 accounts with y'all. Y'all charging me $15 a month to send me the free paper you were doing before? Oh no, we gotta cancel all that.
Mhm.
Banks give me credits all the time. So it adds up. And by the time you realize that that same money that you're throwing away is the money you could have been investing into your future.
You've heard it
So
here. Thank you, Chris.
for
Thank you.
sure.
Thank you. We really can't put a price tag on this type of information because it's invaluable and it'll help us reach our lives goals.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you.
thank you so much,
For
Chris.
sure,
Thank you.
man.
We
Looking forward
definitely
to the next
appreciate
one,
it.
man.
We definitely will be setting that up. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate what you're doing out there. You're clearly passionate about what you're doing. You're teaching, you're offering so many different resources to kind of show that it's attainable. Because a lot of
Yeah.
times, and again, not necessarily touching on race specifically, but a lot of times when you're seeing wealth and you're seeing success and you're seeing it, through a different lens, it feels as though like you can connect, you can support it, but a lot of times you're feeling like, man, can that really be me?
Yeah.
Seeing someone, understanding their story, understanding where they've came from, the mindset change, even what you mentioned as far as budgeting and getting excited about that. And I'm just like, man, I really need to, like, even for me, this being here for this hour have definitely taught me a whole lot during that process. So, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. We salute you and we definitely want to have you back the next time. Thanks again.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
And
Before
I
you go,
hope,
let us
yes,
know where to find your stuff.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, yeah. If you just Google CEO Chris Holder, just go on Google, one word, CEO Chris Holder, pretty much everything will come up. And then my website is ceochrisholder.com. Pretty much all the stuff that I said is on the website. We're doing a giveaway. We're right now doing a $1,750 giveaway.
Woo!
So
Wow.
all someone has to do is go on my website. There's a very top, it'll say get the free training. They'll purchase my book, and that's going to show that you're in the running, right? And then that also gives you access to all of my free calls monthly. So the giveaway isn't more so about the giveaway. It's like, how can I get more people to just get this free information? How
Mm,
can I just find ways? So I'm like, I got to incentivize people to get this information that they should really be needing, right? But they don't want it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close out. I think it's Wednesday. We're officially gonna be closing out
Mhm.
the number of people that can be a part of it, and then whatever we have, we're gonna take all those names, numbers, and emails, and we're gonna put it into a pool, and then we're gonna pick one lucky person, and we're gonna bless them with $1,750 before for the year. So this way, when they think about 2020 and COVID, they think about that's the year that the prayers that they were looking for, or maybe that rent they had to pay, or the stimulus check didn't come in, whatever. We were able to bless somebody with that. So that is also on the website, and we're looking forward to seeing who wins and kind of seeing how that turns around.
Wow. God
Amazing,
bless you,
amazing.
Chris.
Thank you. Thanks again, Chris.
For sure.
We appreciate you. God bless.
No problem. All right, guys.